Hello, hello, it's Marshall. Thank you very much for tuning in to the show. It's the first show of 2020. The year of perfect vision, they say, right? So, yeah, we're going to do kind of a year in review and talk actually a little bit more about the decade in review as well. And with me this time, I have two guests. We are joined by Mr. CowFood on the left and Aaron Russell on the right. Aaron of Impurfekt and Point Surrender here on YouTube, so be sure to check those out. Links in the description for that. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well. Good to see you guys.
Yes. So we're gonna get into that here in just a second, but first I just want to do. I'm gonna talk about a little project that Aaron and I were involved in real fast, and then we'll talk about some news, and then we'll get into some other stuff. So let's talk about this. This is Orion Volume 1. So Aaron and myself have teamed up with Synths. And we have released 140 patches for Yuhi's Diva. And there'll be a link in the description if you want to check this out. We've demoed all these, all 140 of these patches for you in these videos. So maybe while you're cleaning the house or driving to work or whatever, you put one of these on. Anything catches your ear, might be worth taking a listen to and maybe picking this up. That would be cool. So Aaron.
Yes.
Okay, I've got you there. Okay.
Got me.
How was Diva?
Diva's funny because I started using it in maybe 2014, 2015, but I just used it with I would buy patch sets like Orion Volume 1 and use it that way. I didn't explore the synth engine at all because I didn't know anything. But it was one of the best sounding VSTs I had, and I used it a ton. I made an entire album with it. So coming back to it years later, after having not touched VSTs much at all, and doing patches, what was like learning it again for the first time. And I'm really impressed with the flexibility. I mean, it's got 4, 5, 6 different oscillator configurations and a whole bunch of filter configurations and envelope configurations, and it's really the sky's the limit in there.
Yeah, that was one of the things because I had not used Diva before, and I always thought it was kind of like a mini Moog. That's what I thought it was for. I didn't realize that it had the modularity, kind of features where you can put all these different oscillators and filters and envelopes together and create kind of a Frankensynth, so to speak, with also like just how good it sounded. I was really impressed with it. So I was curious because I hadn't talked to you about it, and yeah, I was pretty impressed with it myself. And this project that we did, I think turned out really awesome. So
yeah, I think it's, as far as VSTs go, that's one of the top 5 as far as sounding close to analog gear that I've heard. And I'm talking in the studio in front of your monitors that you're really familiar with, because on YouTube or on SoundCloud that it sounds just as good as analog, but in the flesh it's still not 100% there, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
And there's only a few others that I would put up there. So Diva's at the front of the pack in my experience.
Nice. CowFood, have you ever used Diva?
No, I haven't actually.
Well,
That's one of those I
need to explore.
Traverse. Yes, I've been mostly hardware, so when it comes to soft synths, I tend to avoid them. But maybe that's one I should hop in and take a good.
I think you might like it, and you compare it with this if you really want. Get some...
Yeah, our patch collection is interesting because each one of us have a totally different style, so you get a really wide range of sounds, and you can get a good sense for what Diva is capable of as far as the variety that you can squeeze out of it.
That's true, yeah.
Oh.
So at least maybe check out the videos, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But let's do some news. So, as we all were alluded to by Jean-Michel Jarre, a while back it was kind of leaked that this was coming. although it's still not official. But here's a little teaser. If I can play it, I don't know if it'll play on here. Maybe not. Anyway, looks like an ARP 2600 to me. What do you guys think?
Looks like it, from what I've heard.
Let's see if I can get it to.
All I saw was a yellow cable, so the jury is still out.
But it's in a case, and it looks just like a 2600 case. I don't know why this won't play, but
okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with the case. So
yeah, the ARP 2600 is like built into a case. There's the perfect circuit. Here we go. They have this really nice breakdown. I was actually watching this earlier today. But you can see it's in a case here.
Yeah.
And you see in that teaser, which I can't show you for some reason, that they are rolling a case. So I'm pretty sure it's.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure it's the thing that we all think it is.
Well, what I was wondering though, because in the video that looked like an 1/8" cable, and I thought the original ARP was based on 1/4".
I don't know.
So I'm wondering if the Korg ARP is going to be a smaller version, just like the MS-20 Mini. It's going to be.
I don't know. This looks like to me, at least in this, that this is.
I've only watched the video once.
That these.
I thought maybe those are 1/8".
They look kind of small. They don't look like.
Yeah, they do look pretty small. So I may not know what I'm talking about.
I think it was 1/4" for the original ARP. I don't know. For sure.
Is that an original in that video,
Yeah.
Marshall?
Yeah, that's an original.
Remakes.
That's an original.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm personally pretty excited if that's real, and I've been asking for a reissue of the ARP 2600. Pretty much as soon as Behringer started saying they were going to clone the whole planet, I was like, please make one of those. But I think, honestly, I'm kind of more jazzed that Korg's actually doing it because they have the ARP name and they did such a good job on the MS-20 reissue that I'm kind of excited to see what this looks like. I guess the big question is, how much is it going to be? And we all know that Behringer's probably planning this too, and what's theirs going to look like, and how much is it going to be? And it's just crazy.
Well, you can also compare the Korg ARP Odyssey.
That's true. I forgot. Yes, the Odyssey as well.
So
yeah,
the Carp, as it's known.
Mm-hmm. And which Behringer has their version of as well.
Right.
So.
But they did a great job, Korg, with that one as well.
Yeah.
So I hope it turns out good. I mean, who doesn't want to make R2-D2 come to life?
Yeah, bleep, bleep, bloop.
Right.
Looks like it is most likely 1/8" on the original. I'm looking at some vintage synth pages here, and they've got a whole bunch of different versions of the 2600, and all of them are about the same size. And yeah, looks like it's 1/8", not 1/4.
Which seems kind of weird given the age of that.
Yeah,
instrument.
that's I always assumed it was 1/4 because during that era I thought everything was 1/4.
Yeah, now that you mention it, that's what I would have thought too.
It have to do with the fact that it was intended for university classrooms, as was discussed.
That's true. And that's why it's got big graphics on it and stuff, supposedly. So all the kids can know what, okay, plug this into there.
I'll have a really hard time not getting the Korg ARP 2600 if it comes out and they've done it right.
Yeah. I'm kind of worried on what it's going to cost. That's my only thing. Like, it seems like it might be kind of expensive, but we'll see.
I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted $2,000 for it.
Is it worth $2,000? Do you think? For I mean, if it's like legit, like how Moog did like the mini Moog reissue, then I'd say yes. But what do you think?
I'd say if it's 1-to-1 build quality with the I think the version 2 is one, and the version, okay, yeah, they got a few different versions here that I'm looking at on the vintage synth site, but I don't know. I might, just because that's one of my dream synths. Just the sound of the ARP. You know, I really like the Korg ARP Odyssey. Having a hard time saying that.
We just say carp.
The carp. I really like the Carp Odyssey, but that was like, well, I'd rather have a 2600, but
yes,
I can't get one. So here's the Odyssey instead. That's that's decent, but I really wish I had that third oscillator.
Yeah.
So that the 2600 is like the holy grail ARP sound, in my opinion.
Yes. What do you think, CowFood?
If it's 2000, it might be a little too high price-wise. I think if they're going to put it out there, it's going to be. Plus, they're in competition with. I'm pretty sure Behringer's going to come up with their own ARP.
Yeah.
2600. As a consequence, if they want to sell any of their units, they're going to probably have to sell it for probably near $1,000, but I don't expect it to go beyond that.
If they can do it without a keyboard attached, that might help that situation. I can see some of these look like they have a keyboard, but some of these there is no keyboard. So I don't know if it originally was available only with the keyboard, or if there was you could buy them separately.
I think that was a separate thing with the OG. If I'm thinking right. But so yeah, I think it certainly is going to be able to be used without the keyboard. So I think you can buy it as a separate piece.
Yeah.
If you want.
Well, I'm excited about it, and we'll see what happens. But we got some other news from Korg. They had another teaser, which I'm not going to show, but it was like like another keyboard-looking thing. I'm guessing it's probably a workstation of some kind. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Looks like another log.
Oh, you think so?
Log, mini log.
Really?
Well, just by the look of the photo. I mean, that's all I have to go on. And it has the same look as the logs. With that little joystick.
You think maybe it'll be the, here's our real prologue. The other one is the less prologue.
Right. I don't know.
That's interesting.
There's a limit on that.
We'll see what happens. For some reason, I got a feeling that it's probably a workstation of some kind, but I could be wrong. And I would much prefer to see an update prologue, like a better one.
Oh, okay, I'm just now finding the teaser you're referring to. I never saw that one. So. I don't know how to watch it without sound though.
It's only like 10 seconds long or something. And aren't they supposed to announce that on the 7th?
I think that sounds right.
And
there's a third one too, which is, are all three going to be announced? Not to jump ahead, but I think there's 3 that are supposed to be coming.
I don't know. I've only seen 2, and then I saw this, which was next on the news. The Korg Triton is now available as a plugin with all the 4,000 sound programs, it says. So it's got all the expansion PCM cards, and that's pretty impressive. I can tell you that I've got a Triton rack that I bought last year, and to buy the cards is really where it gets expensive. I think mine altogether is probably worth like $1,000, even though the base unit itself is maybe 400 of that. So to get all of those sounds kind of in a plugin, I think is pretty neat. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Cool. I have a Z1, so in a sense, it's like the big brother to the Z1.
This was
I don't know.
When the Triton was out, that was like the thing to get when I was getting into dance music production in the early 2000s. Like the Triton was like the cool thing to have. That's what I remember anyways. But that's also from coming in entry level, not knowing anything, and like that seemed to be like the cool thing.
I'm really not familiar with the Triton line at all. So I've just, from the teaser, I couldn't say, you know, the profile doesn't match a prologue. It's not curved. You know, the prologue has a very obvious profile. So.
Oh, you're looking at the other teaser that's an actual hardware synth. But this
is there a third teaser?
Well, this was an announcement. They did do a teaser, and people were like using Photoshop, and they could see the outline of a Triton in there, and that's what that was. They've announced this as the Triton is a soft synth now, which is I think that's pretty neat. I might have to. I'm not sure how much it is, actually. They say.
Make an iOS version of it. I'd be interested for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure, because Korg's been pretty good. They're also one of the. They also did a lot of. Well, I don't know if they did a lot, but they did a few rack extensions for Reason, which I think there's like a monopoly one, and there's a few other ones. So they've been pretty good. And then there's the Korg Gadget, which a lot of people love. So they've got a pretty good lineup of software. And then the Korg Legacy collection is something I've had for years, and it's
me too.
wonderful. The M1 in that is really good. So yeah, I guess that's all the news I got right now. So guys, it's 2020. We just got done with 2019, and we had a bunch of really cool things announced in 2019. Just I mean, Behringer aside, which they probably had like what 10 things come out this year. I don't even know. But then we had the ASM Hydrasynth, the MicroFreak, the Novation Summit, the Jupiter XM, the Waldorf Kyra, and then those. I'm not sure if the Mini Log XD was last year or if it was 2018. But if we even kind of throw in the XD in there, so that's a pretty impressive line of synths over the last year. Did I miss anything? Was there anything else that I am totally leaving out in the dust or in the cold?
As far as news goes?
As far as new stuff that came out this year, or last year, excuse me, 2019.
Is that the Argon 8? Is that what the Modal?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes. I feel like a dick. Argon 8.
Argon 8, yeah, okay, that's the one.
Argon 8. That's similar in style, sound-wise, I think, to the Hydrasynth a little bit. It's got some wave morphing abilities and
similar technology, but from what I've heard, they don't sound terribly
alike.
Well, you start to get into degrees. I guess they're different flavored apples, you could say.
Yeah. And then I guess we've got Osmos, which I forgot to mention, from Expressive E, which is a new take on a controller slash.
I don't know if that's
engine.
Into anyone's hands yet.
That's true. That's still but I guess you're right. Since that's not technically out yet, we can say that's not. It was announced.
And I think the Argon maybe just started shipping in a few countries, but I know in some countries it's not yet available.
Okay, so even with that one,
right?
Maybe limited release in 2019.
Yeah, Hydrasynth. I know that's out, and people are getting their hands on the Hydrasynth.
Yep, people are getting those now, and all the other stuff on here. Well, even some of the Behringer stuff's technically not shipping everywhere. And I did have I did pull up this. This is the Thomann website. I guess is how you say it, Thomann.
I don't know how to pronounce it either.
And there's just so much Behringer on here. It's like a rash.
I know as a YouTuber, I think it's Dennis Pollick. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he lives near one of these. I think it's a Thomann stores, and he tried out a Poly D. So I know that stores.
Oh, they've already got the Poly D?
Do have the Poly D in stock, because he said he actually got to try it out hands on.
Okay, cool. Because I didn't think that was going to be out till like towards the end of this year.
Yeah, that was quick.
That's super quick. And then they even had a few surprises like the Wasp and now the Cat.
Mm-hmm.
The Cat was just announced. I don't know. I don't see that on the list here. Maybe it's not actually in stores yet. But just in general, the RD8, I finally got mine this year. Last year. I might do that a few times, but when I say, I mean 2019. So I finally got that. The Pro Ones finally. Mr. CowFood, you have a K2.
Yes.
Which that came out. And did you get an MS1?
I did not.
Okay.
I have the O1A, and I also have a Eurorack from Intelligel that has basically the same componentry. So I figured, like, why would I need a third 101?
Yeah.
I basically have two. It is.
Well, you've
so
got the you've got the boutique, right? The boutique SH01A. Yep.
Yep.
So that's good.
And the Intelligent Atlantis for the Eurorack side of things. So they basically cover all the grounds I need for 101 type work.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, just with Behringer, there were several. Let me see if Hydrasynth made probably the most waves.
Mm-hmm.
Although
Yeah,
it was kind
definitely.
of a little later in the year. The MicroFreak, that was in 2019, right? Pretty sure.
Yep.
Which that's interesting. And Mr. CowFood, you picked one of those up too, didn't you?
I did.
And you're loving it.
Well, yeah, it's basically who is it? Mutable Instruments makes a Eurorack module that has basically all the sounds that are in the microphone.
Okay.
And so that is called the Platts, if I recall. That's what makes it worth its weight in gold. Plus, Platts is only has one chord mode on the Eurorack module, but in the case of the MicroFreak, you get Platts times 4 because it's 4-voice polyphony.
Oh, I
It's
see.
digital, but it's got a very unique sound, and it has a lot of different. As you can see in the top left, there's a little matrix for changing or routing LFOs and envelopes to wherever you want.
Yep, 5 sources and 7 destinations with 3 user-defined points. Interesting.
And lastly, it's what's that thing I whisper about all the time?
Poly Aftertouch.
That's right.
So
it has that in its own unique way because it's a touch capacitive board, not a key.
not keys. So do you find that makes the Poly Aftertouch like more fun, or is it just?
Well, I don't know because I don't actually have a Poly Aftertouch key set, so I couldn't tell you if it's any different. Obviously it is different, but as far as more fun or more enjoyable to me
So
versus one of those, I would have to be able to A/B.
So you can't do? Can you do the Poly Aftertouch with that little capacitive touchpad?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the more skin you push down, so let's say this is the board here. If I have, see if I get my fingers on there. The more skin I push onto the thing is basically the amount of modulation you're going to have.
Okay. Interesting.
And that's per note. So
Wow.
so your different fingers have to be pushing down more of your skin on the board to give more modulation. So
And it's
that's how that one.
It's a four voice. Is it polyphony? 4-voice polyphony on that?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, I
And or
guess-
monophonic, you can switch.
Okay.
Full 4-voice polyphony, not paraphonic?
Not paraphony.
I believe it's. Well, actually, I would have to look at it again to see if it's paraphonic versus polyphonic in this case. I think it is polyphonic versus paraphonic. I'm not 100% sure on that.
But it does
Look
seem
it up.
Like a. I tried one at KnobCon, and it seemed fun. My biggest problem is I don't like the capacitive touch thing on that. But I guess it's a cheap way to allow for Poly Aftertouch because the development of the keyboard to be able to implement Poly Aftertouch, I guess, is not the easiest thing in the world. So maybe that's why they did it that way, to help keep costs down as well. So I guess that makes sense.
I need to try it out with my my Peak because I believe that does support Poly Aftertouch.
Yes, it sure does.
So that's something when I get back from vacation here, I'm pointing.
Well, then we have the Summit, which is, speaking of the Peak, the next iteration. It's basically 2 Peaks in one synth with a keybed this time. And I think this is going to be extremely popular. We know our buddy Jamie at GeoSynths is pretty excited for this. What do you guys think? Aaron?
for my needs, it feels like overkill, but I don't know how you can have too much of a good thing and putting two peaks in one box. I mean, and it just, as far as I can tell, they nailed the build quality. Well, I don't know what that issue is that I've heard of recently. I can't remember if it was a knob issue, but
I think it was an issue with some pots or something. I could be wrong, but that's what I recall.
But the peak build quality was superb, so I assume the Summit is the same build quality. The sound engine, I always call it a chameleon because there's so many options, and then with the different drives, you can drive pre-filter, and then there's a after filter drive. You can just do anything with it. I've not used another synth that's as versatile as the Peak, and having two of those in one keyboard, and at the price they have, I think it's what, 2,000.
Yes, somewhere around there.
Is it around 2,000? It might be a little over, depending on what day.
I think they knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's 16 voices. I wonder what its competition is, just because its capabilities are beyond, say, the Prologue 16, beyond the Rev 2.
Well, I'd say, I mean,
that market.
Just being FPGA-based oscillators kind of puts it in Kyra territory, which is another synth that came out this year. It's on the list here. But being analog filters, you're limiting to. That's where the price comes in, because you need a filter per voice, basically. And so that's why I think like the Quantum, for example, is only 8 voices. Because you got the analog filters, that's where the cost comes in. But FPGA oscillators on this gives it that very high fidelity sound quality that something like the Kyra has. So I would say maybe the Kyra kind of competing a little bit in that space, just based on that. But yeah, otherwise I don't know exactly what would compete.
Well, the Rev 2 in a sense does, because you can make it 16 voice. So.
That's true.
And it's a or bi-timbral. So, but the Kyra is, how many timbral can that thing be?
That's 8-part multi-timbral, 128 voices, so but it has no, it's fully.
Blows it away.
It's fully FPGA, so you don't get the analog filters. Although the filters on the Kyra are, it is a Moog ladder style filter, but it can also do stereo. You got full independent stereo filtering on there, but it is you just have the one filter, so it is a little limited in that regard.
But I think it was touched on by Aaron here. It's the gain staging that makes that synth unique. It has multiple stages, not just pre and post. It has its own distortion as well in the effects section, and a gain staging in the main settings and gain setting on the patches themselves, where you can really drive a sound into territory that would need some kind of external effects and amplification to do in any other kind of synth. And as being that it's mostly analog on the right side versus just digital for the oscillators, it sounds unique and different. And it's in its own class. I would just say it's got its own character.
And that's why people are digging it, man, because it's cool.
Yep.
All right, then we got the Kyra as well, which we kind of talked about. This to me was this is probably my favorite synth this year. I've been jonesing to get this since it was announced in 2018 as the Valkyrie, and very impressed with it. That's my take on it. I love having the ability to have so much multi-timbrality and polyphony that you basically are not going to run out, and you could virtually produce an entire track with one synth at one time, and you can do that with this. So I really like the Kyra. I know it's had kind of a little bumpy rollout, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. You guys have any thoughts on the Kyra?
It's expensive, man, but damn, 8-part multi-timbral, 256 voice polyphony, right?
Yes, there are 128. Sorry, 128 voice. Yes, I believe.
Still,
yeah, that sounds right.
It's more fingers than I've got on my hands.
Yeah, I mean, even if you played every note, well, I mean, if you
release with release all the way up on it, even by the time it ran out, I doubt I could hit 128 voices. So, I mean, plus, I mean, it's wavetable, right? As well.
It has wavetable, yeah, but they are single cycle waves, so it's not. It does not do no morphing, which is funny because up until Hydrasynth and the Argon 8, I don't know of any synths that did really wave morphing before. Do you guys recall any? Even in software, I don't think. I mean, there's stuff already coming out in software now that does it, but I don't recall another synth beside, until the recent digitals, Hydra and Argon 8 that would do that. Do you guys know of any?
I'm not terribly familiar with the digital hardware synths.
I mean, yeah, this is like if there was something in like the 80s that I wouldn't be super familiar with just because age gap. But
right.
Is there anything that comes to mind, CowFood? You said the wave station?
Wave station. I'm not sure about the Blofeld. I haven't really delved into it enough, but it might.
Okay.
PPG stuff from Waldorf past. That, but maybe not to the extent.
So anyway, I mean, it does have wavetable, is what I'm saying, but it's not going to be as versatile as something like a Hydrasynth or Argon 8. And I'm not sure.
Is that an incoming feature possibly?
I don't see why they wouldn't be able to implement that if they wanted to, but that would be up to whatever the roadmap is for development on that synth.
Yeah.
So and they still have got unfortunately a few bugs to work out still, which seems to be kind of a common thing nowadays. A lot of the synths that have been introduced have little bugs here and there, and yeah. So hopefully they'll get those addressed, and then I'm more concerned about synth companies making sure their product is workable. Like you don't have like stupid bugs in it. Like get those things fixed before you start worrying about trying to add features or this or that. And that's something that the Moog 1 I've got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about still.
I can see it there.
Yeah, they keep releasing new features, but they still have not fixed some very critical bugs on that. So it's like, come on.
If it gets too annoying for you, you can just send it to me. I'll deal with it.
I mean, I'll definitely deal with it. And for me, as being a studio musician, like I'm not gigging this thing out, but if there was somebody that really wanted to do that, I would not do that with a Moog 1, not yet anyway. So it's a little disappointing, I guess, if you're somebody who wanted to do that. But anyway, so that's kind of what we had for the year of 2019. So it was a jam-packed year. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot to mention. And how could I forget this? The guy on the bus, he's playing his Jupiter XM, and yeah, the Jupiter XM looks cute. I don't know. What do you guys think of the Jupiter XM?
Well, I'll let Aaron answer this one.
Yeah, Aaron, what do you think?
I think I've already said my piece.
I feel like what's the big one? Just the Jupiter X, is that what they're calling?
The full size.
It's not out yet.
Yeah, it's gonna be out by end of this year, I think. Well, you never know. Maybe they'll give some more information at NAMM in a couple weeks.
I feel like the aesthetics are moving in the right direction from the IRA line.
Mm-hmm.
I never the TR8S. That looks good, but the other equipment in the IRA line, it just doesn't fit into my idea of what I want to see in the studio. But it's, I don't know. Roland is really on this digital reproduction train, I guess.
You mean
the
bus?
XM is part of that. Bus. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, obviously, bus. They're really on this digital reproduction bus and recreating the old hardware that we all love in a software realm, and putting it in these boxes that have, a huge sound palette. That's just not what I'm interested in. So, it's a tough sell for somebody like me who would prefer analog equipment. From what I've heard, it sounds great.
But didn't you hear they put a new
new and improved temperature?
Yeah.
What is that? Warm up.
The warm up thing,
option,
where if it's cold outside, it has to warm up or something like that. I don't know.
What? I had a hard time believing that wasn't an April Fool's in December, but apparently it's a real thing.
It's like the Cybertruck.
Wow.
Everyone thought it was a joke, but no, that's real.
It left me speechless, honestly.
Yeah, did you hear about that, CowFood?
Well, I did not.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad they did that. I mean, if my hands are cold, I can't play the keys. I can just stick it under there while it warms up. Right? Stick them both.
Oh
with
yeah.
My hands.
Oh no, but it doesn't physically warm up. It basically.
Okay.
If you have an analog synth that needs to warm up, like in the old days,
right, for tuning,
it would drift, and that they've implemented is like fake warm up routine where the oscillators will sound like piss for like 5 minutes. Yeah, for no reason. Because
they actually give you a piss sound. That's ace.
There you go.
That's a selling point.
Who needs analog when you can have all the bad parts of analog in digital now too? If you want.
I have to assume there's a way to shut it off.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't make any sense to have it on.
Why would they do that? That would be no. They got to keep that on there. That's very important.
I know we rip on it, but I do agree with you, Aaron, that cosmetically they're definitely moving in the right direction. This is much more of an attractive device cosmetically. Yeah. And we all know it's going to sound good because the Zen core that they've put in here is likely some kind of iteration on the ACB stuff that had come before, which already sounded fantastic. So it's not that I'm... with something like this, for me, it's like, why does it have mini keys? Okay, so I guess this guy can go on the tour bus, but for me, I would rather have it as a module or something I can put in the rack for that size. The big one would be okay too, but I mean, considering somebody who's been buying synths for a long time, or even if you have like the rolling cloud already, you've pretty much got everything that's in there. So is it something that I would need? No, I don't know why I don't like this that much, because it seems like a good idea, but I think it's because they've already done this kind of thing like before. Maybe I don't know.
I feel like they're heading in the same direction, and it's not the direction that guys like us would like them to go. And I don't know. I guess we're not the target audience and haven't been for a few decades with Roland.
I mean, if you need,
I don't know. I'm just confused about it.
If you're newer to gear, maybe this is something because it's got all the Roland stuff in a box and you can take it on a bus and go on tour or whatever. That makes sense. Yeah, for me, it's not. I don't know. I want to like it because I like Roland, but I don't know. Something's just not right with it. Doesn't hit that sweet spot.
I agree with everything said. So
excellent.
Singing to the choir.
Singing to the choir. So yeah, so that's.
What was it? What was it they said though? There was one thing they said: chasing ghosts, right? Wasn't it?
Well, they said they don't chase analog ghosts, which originally I thought they said they don't.
Versus digital ghosts.
I thought they were saying they don't chase ghosts. Period. Maybe I'm misquoting. I don't know, but. In saying something like that, but then you release this, which is basically an analog ghost in digital form. I don't know.
Multiple analog ghosts in one box.
I mean, is that really the innovation that you're talking about there? I don't know. I don't understand why.
That statement doesn't make any sense regarding the Jupiter X line at all.
Well, it wouldn't make sense with a lot of what Roland's done over the last however many years. You know, re-releasing the Jupiter and the Junos and all those things in plug outs and in VSTs and in boutiques, and now this. It sure seems like you guys are chasing the ghost still.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a mistranslation, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. Because what that means to me is like, if they're saying they don't want to chase ghosts, then why are we not getting something completely new? Because this is not. I mean, it's extremely powerful. It's got a lot of, like you said, it's got a wide palette, and it's gonna sound great. But it sounds, you basically taking your vintage stuff and putting them in digital form and stuffing them all in one box. That's
with this whole warm-up time thing, that just smacks of chasing ghosts in me too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just like, just make an analog. Just make an analog one already, and like. I mean, they're not going to. I've said that for years. They're never going to do that again. So, it is what it is. But if that's the case, I would just like to see something like the System 8. I thought was kind of cool, right? Because it had the new.
Did you hear the System 8 sound engine much yourself?
Yeah, I use it. I use the Roland Cloud version of it.
Okay.
So, and I do like it. And the plug out idea, I thought that was innovative. Like, right?
Oh,
because it's cool that you could do some sound design things like that in your DAW. And then use the plug out, take it on the road. Like, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, this seems like just more of a, in general, just kind of a safe thing. Like, here's some of our best ofs in one box. It's $1,500, and you can take it on the bus, and it's battery powered and has a speaker. So hipsters unite.
I really like the System 1M and the System 1, the sound engine in those, which is slightly different than the System 8. That's a superb sounding synthesizer in its own right. So, you know, they have created some original.
And that was a cool idea too, but the problem with that was it's all way too much green.
Yeah.
And I think LEDs are cool, but like, at least they're doing it right now. I think like you said with the TR8S, like, and where it's less emphasis on the green. You still got some of those modern lighting techniques, but you've got a little more variety.
It's tastefully done, I think.
It's definitely better than where Era started. So, and I have a lot of the Era stuff. I've got a TR8. I've got I think I have everything except the System 1. I never got that because, again, I don't like the little keys on it, but.
That one is especially bright green and you can't adjust the brightness on it at all, whereas I think on every other one you can.
Yes, because there's a brightness adjustment even on the TR8 for the lights on the bottom. So I don't know. Anyway, that's enough yelling at Roland. We love you, Roland. Yeah. I do. But here we go. So like we could kind of talk about. So it's like we're at the end of 2019. A lot of cool things happened in the synth world in terms of product releases, etc. We've got some crazy things coming in 2020. But what I want to kind of talk about now is over the last 10 years, since we're coming to the end of the decade, we kind of talk a little bit about maybe some standout synths over the last 10 years. Because you think about stuff like, well, let's see. So I sent you guys all a list here, but if we go back and let's take a look, so like in 2012, we had the Sub Fatty, or 2013, the Sub Fatty came out, right? I can't believe it's been that long. The Minotaur was 2012. The Slim Fatty, 2010. What? Speaking of which, CowFood.
Yeah.
I need to buy yours. Yeah. By the way.
Okay. It's sold.
So yeah.
We'll talk about that after the show.
Sure. So right. I mean, when you think about like when over the last 10 years, the analog kind of revolution, I think, kind of started with Korg, basically, with the MS-20. Well, I guess it would be the Monotrons, really.
The Volcas?
Well, the Volcas were kind of a more refined version of the Monotrons. Do you remember the Monotrons, CowFood?
Yes.
It was like a $50 little tiny ribbon control.
I should have brought mine because I have one.
And I don't.
I have the delay one.
That was when the analog stuff, though. I guess they started using surface mount components, and they could do it cheaply, and it made sense to maybe bring back some analog. And if we go to Wikipedia here for Korg, that was in 2010. We got the Monotron right here. So that's kind of where this started 10 years ago, guys. Before that, if you wanted analog, you were getting mono synths from Moog that were pricey. I mean, they sound great, but that's pretty much it. And then the Andromeda, but that was early 2000s and didn't stay in production very long. So yeah, before that,
DSI has always kind of been in there, though. DSI has been in the background, chugging away with their end.
That's true too, because they had they had the Mofo, which is kind of like a mini Moog-ish. That was kind of not mini Moog, sub fatty, slim fatty, not sub fatty. This one, little fatty kind of competitor, and then the Tetra 4, right? Was that a 4-voice analog that they had for a while?
Yep. And
yeah, it's a Mofo X4 in a box.
Okay, that's it.
I have one of those too.
Oh, do you?
Which is 4-part multi-timbral, kind of like the A4. So, but yeah, but it's something I'm not keen on because the big problem with it is that everything has to be done. If you want to get anything out of it, is you got to be using software in the box, and you have to pay an extra $100.
Yep.
Oh, really? They charged money for that?
Get the most out of it.
I don't know that they made one. I bought one separately.
DSI doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to buy it through a third-party company. There's only two.
Oh, gotcha. So third-party, like, what's that one company, Magic Quest or whatever, that does all the...
Not that
Sound Tower or...
Sound Tower.
I think it's Sound Tower in that case.
There's one other one called Code. I forget, Code something or other. But they're the only two that make these third-party editors. And you're pretty much stuck because there's not very many knobs on the Tetra.
Yeah, and it's not... I had one for a little while a few months back after I got my Mofo. I was like, ooh, let's make it 8 voices, and I tried it out, and I hooked them up and got the full experience, and basically it was faster to make a sound on the Mofo and then copy it over via SysX to the Tetra and work that way rather than to try to do anything in the Tetra.
Right.
Oh,
I had 2 Tetras, and I luckily sold one, so now I got to find a buyer for the last one. Yeah, I might try to just trade it in, maybe a Guitar Center for maybe Rev 2 or something.
Oh, dude, you mean the center with guitars in it?
Yeah, that thing.
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't think they have synths anymore, honestly.
But that's true also with all the other synths from DSI. They don't make editors for any of their synths. They're outsourced through Sound Tower. So you have to pay an extra bit of chunk of change for any of their synths.
That's something I didn't know because I've never owned a Dave Smith synth. And that's not because I don't think they're good. I just have always wanted something else more. I think I explained that one time.
Well, most of them are now per function, so you don't have to use those.
The Prophet 08, I always wanted one of those. And maybe I'll still get one eventually, but, you know.
Yeah.
So I wasn't aware that they didn't have... well, like the emulate or the Polyvolver, that thing always looked cool to me, but that was that's early 2000s, and that's a hybrid, right? Doesn't it have like digital oscillators and analog filters or something?
I believe so.
And it was blue and it looked cool. I remember seeing that at Guitar Center when they used to carry synths in their showrooms and you could try stuff out. And I was like, wow, that's a cool looking thing.
Well, yeah, they were chugging around in the background making their analog stuff, even prior to 2010.
Yeah, and I'd say when the Tempest came out, I was pretty excited about that, but that seemed to have a lot of bugs. I don't know if it ever even got fully fixed, whatever was going on with that. Analog Drum Machine with Roger Lynn, I think, helped with that too, which was cool.
Yes.
And then,
yeah, okay, I remember.
And the Prophet 6 and the OB6 were big news, and that was in 2016, I believe. Those were released. That's when we started getting some actual decent poly analogs. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any of the other. Am I missing any other Poly analogs?
What, prior to 2010?
Yeah. I mean, like, during the last 10 years, we've had a bunch. We've had the DeepMind 12. We've had...
a ton.
Yeah, like a bunch.
We're going to miss some no matter what. We talk about
Yeah.
And we haven't even mentioned, you know, and I'm not a big Electron guy, so I forgot to list, like, all their stuff. And Novation, they had the Base Station 2. That was in the last 10 years, I think, right?
Might be older.
It might be older. It might be pre-2010.
You think?
Yeah. I can't. I might be mixing it up with the original base station.
It's so hard to keep it straight because there's been so many, and that's actually a good thing that there's been a lot of hardware in the last 10 years, a lot of it analog, which a lot of us like, but I can already kind of start seeing the pendulum starting to swing the other way now with the digital stuff, or hybrids at least. So we'll see.
I think it's going to be, personally, both. I think we're going to see more coming through on the digital side, but just as much more coming through on the analog side, because some new wave folding in analog oscillators is starting to take shape. So
is that kind of like the metalizer that I have in this matrix grid over here? It's kind of like a weird wave shaping, wave folding type situation.
Yeah, kind of like that, except maybe even more
robust.
Yes. You're seeing that coming through on some Euro rack modules.
So when we go back here and we look at our Roland Synth Chronicles, this only covers up through 2014. I don't know why they stopped. It's so hard to find a list of released instruments by manufacturer by date. Like Wikipedia has some stuff, but like not for Roland. It's like just crazy. So if anyone ever wants to catalog this, please do and let us know, because it'd be great to be able to backtrack some of these things when you're reminiscing. It's like the V Combo VR700 2010. The Gaia. Do you guys remember that? That's where I got kind of confused, where the SH01 came from. This is the original SH01, and why the boutique is the SH01A. Right? That's a little bit of trivia there for you. The Juno stuff, like, I never used any of these. Did you guys ever use any of the Junos? Like this Juno GI here?
No.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. Is that like a... I don't know. This seems weird. Then the Jupiter 80, which that was the first time when Roland released something, I was like, I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know why you're doing that. Why are you doing that?
Now, which is the one that has the legendary super saw? Is that the 8000?
That's the 8000 and the 8080. Those if we go back on our Chronicle list here.
The 8080, that's the rack version of the 8000?
Yes. And that was back when, so like what they used to do back in the day, at least from what I recall.
Because I was looking at that 8080 when I was looking at the MS2000R.
Yes. So what they would do is you'd have your keyboard version come out, and then maybe a year or two later you'd get the desktop or the rack mount version, and they would usually have some improvements. So like with this, the 8000 came out in 97, the 8080 came out in 98, and it has 2 more voices of polyphony, and it had a vocoder, and it had something else I'm probably forgetting. But so they had some feature enhancements as well when they came out with the rack mount. So that's something you don't see as much, because like now even you talk about like ASM and their entry to the synth market with the Hydrasynth. Well, they're already kind of doing a desktop version and a keyboard version at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting trend as well. Or you have like the Kyra, where it's only a desktop module, right? Or the Peak. So it's kind of interesting.
Right. I think the 1010. Do you ever familiar with that one?
Which one?
Marshall. It's the 1010 Roland rack.
1010. Not familiar. Is it on my Chronicle list here? Let's take a look.
It should be. It should be a little black thing. You go down.
Do you know what year, approximately?
It's in the 90s somewhere.
This is what freaks me out. Is the V-Synth is 2003. Holy crap. Or sorry. Yeah, it is 2003. 2003. My God. Because that was like... I remember seeing these in the shops, and that was like my dream synth at the time. So it feels so long
It's
ago.
the smaller little black rack mount.
And it's called the 1010.
Is that it right there?
That's an RS5, or that's a JV 1010, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one?
That's legendary for making like video game soundtracks and stuff, I think.
Oh, is it?
Is it?
There's people still that have YouTube channels that make sounds with that line of boxes, and
well, I know the 10.
When you want to make those kind of sounds and make game music and that Japanese rock music from that era that seems to have not changed in the last 30 years, you use that box.
Oh, it's got a cult status now.
Yes,
See, I should have picked one up. I don't know why I didn't pick one of those up.
The 1010s, I bet you could still get one for like $200 probably, you think? We could check. We could check reverb. Let's check reverb. We'll do it right now.
They're starting to get that throwback cred on those little boxes. They have a very specific sound.
200
captures an era.
On reverb.
For JV 1010? What about a 1080?
Yeah. 1080. Look.
One of those is the most popular model, and it might be the 1080.
The 1080 is the one I always heard was... I mean, and those are before my time. I was in high school back then. Didn't give a shit about synths back then.
Maybe like $20. No, it's about $300 for the 1080. That's what I see is $300.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there it is. JV 1080. Yeah, that's the popular one.
Yeah. So in this you can get in the cloud now too, by the way. So if you're jonesing for some of those, I don't know how. Here's a question. So now that we're starting to reach where some of these digital synths are coming up on 30 years old, and we're seeing Roland, for example, and Korg now taking some of these and putting them in plugins. There's still always like this weird thing where even the digital stuff, sometimes they don't emulate it right, and you still doesn't sound correct. And so that means that hardware versions of these devices could still be sought after and valuable. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is that something we're going to see more of coming up in the next couple of years here? You know, obviously we're already seeing them being virtualized, but do you think that the hardware versions of some of these boxes, like the what is this? The Roland one that they just came out with in the cloud. The 5080, the JX 5080. Like, I don't know, because those are still,
I doubt it.
Those are still kind of expensive boxes, you know, especially for their age. So do you think that the hardware is going to be worth anything in a couple of years there, CowFood? Were you saying? No?
Probably not, because I mean, when it comes to original analog stuff, they seem to go up in price. Not just because there's a following and because artists that we all know have used them, but because the sound is not... It's really hard to replicate or even clone the sounds.
Right. Up
until the last 5 years, I think. Now Behringer is doing it, but there's still some idiosyncrasies to the point where some people will still spend thousands of dollars just to have the original. Whereas when it comes to the digital synths, you can replicate those sounds no problem in the VST, and you can get exactly the sound that you're looking for. And that's why you're not going to see that those older hardware units go up in price as time goes on.
Aaron, any thoughts?
Yeah, there is one issue that's interesting about digital, and I know at some point it's not as much of a factor, but the older digital stuff, you still had like, what is it, 10-bit or 8-bit chips in there somewhere in the signal chain, and anywhere there was a DAC, that may have been lower quality. And it's more apparent with, I think, DX7 VSTs. the actual physical DX7 does have some subtle differences in sound than a DX7 VST, simply because of the more primitive hardware used in the signal chain on the DX7.
Right, which that makes
It
sense.
wouldn't surprise me if there was something similar going on with the MS2000, because I'm guessing if I got I don't even know if there is an MS2000 plugin,
I don't think so.
but I would doubt that that plugin could perfectly emulate what it sounds like when I max the volume and amp and oscillator mixer knobs on the MS2000. Because you can overdrive a digital synth in most cases and get a little grit out of it. So it's a very subtle thing, though. I mean, 90 to 95% of the sound you're going to be able to replicate perfectly, but there's going to be some nuances, and especially with the older digital gear, that it's really hard for a VST to capture. And there's people out there who have done videos on this topic extensively, and they swear by the old stuff, and they say the VST just doesn't cut it. There's something missing. I stick with the hardware.
Which is funny, because that's what everybody said for such a long time about the analog stuff and being cloned in the VST realm. And I can attest with some of the, I want to say it's the D50. Roland had done like several different iterations of the D50 before the current boutique, and the VST I think are pretty good. But like they had a VC card for the V-Synth, and it would turn your V-Synth into like a D50, and it did not sound very good compared to the original. I remember getting that thinking, this is what D50 sounds like shit. Like, I didn't like it. But I think part of that was, even though they were using the same samples, the limitation of the D50 meant that the sample rate was reduced, and like you said, the converters, etc., like could be a number of very nuanceical type things that cause that to not be as good. Yeah, so
your D has a mode on there where you can switch it to sound like closer to the D50 boutique that you have.
Yes, it's got a classic mode and a modern mode or whatever it is. Yeah.
It makes it sound a little less clear and a little more gritty.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I don't have a D50 anymore to be able to actually compare those. I figured this is pretty good.
Yeah,
So,
by all accounts I've heard, they pretty much nailed the D50 boutique.
yeah. And that was something I was worried about because, like you said, there's been people that have compared these, and some of the other software versions of the D50, for example, do not sound as good. So,
well, if there's any componentry in those older digital synths that, like a VCA or an amplifier that's analog, or a filter, then in those cases you're going to see a difference because of those analog components. But I would think with enough work, you can imitate a DAC with VSTs to the point where it's going to sound exactly like the original IC chip DAC. And the IC chip DAC isn't going to impart necessarily, I would think, any difference, at least from the DACs for the oscillator sample. I don't know.
So do you think we'll ever get a Planet MoFat or whatever it is? The purple Rompler thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Or you guys are looking at me like I'm crazy?
Planet Fat?
I'm looking at
You're talking about just the Planet Fat, right?
Is it, or is it the MoFat? I can't remember what it's called now.
It's just Planet Fat with a PH. PHATT, if I recall. I'll look it up just to make sure. It's horrible. But no, I hope to God we don't. Planet Fat.
We need one of these. It's a big pink, purplish...
oh, wait. It's...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of these.
There it is. Wow. Delicious. I had one of those.
That screams 90s.
I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to say I used to have one.
If that doesn't say... That's like the poor man's JV 1080, right? Or Proteus 2000 or something.
Metal from Dreadbox.
Right.
What is that? The Hypnosis, I think it is.
Oh, good times.
Please no.
We'll see.
They have a whole lineup of those.
I'm just curious if any of these old digital synths, like, even like we were talking the the JP8000 and the 8080. The 8080 is actually, those prices are starting to creep up.
Yeah, I checked. That's why I briefly looked like, oh yeah, no, that's like twice as much as the MS2000.
Yeah, you would think, but the 8000, which is the keyboard version, is less expensive than the rack version of that synth. So it's kind of interesting. So I wonder if we'll see like some old VAs become. I don't think they'll ever hit like Jupiter 8 levels or, you know, original ARP 2600, whatever. You know, those synths that cost like a memory Moog that's like 15 grand. Like, I don't think we'll ever see that in the digital side, but you never know. Maybe we will.
There is a sense on some of those, you know, there's an old Yamaha A100 something or other. Just some of those old VA synths from the 90s. They sound really good. To me, they sound better than any digital I've heard. Digital hardware
modern digital hardware.
Yeah, 5-10 years, and I think it's because they don't sound like the Kyra sounds like butter. Everything I've heard out of the Kyra sounds like butter.
Yeah,
but I don't know how well it does if you don't want butter. Maybe you want some warmth and some fat or some grit.
The problem is with something like the Kyra is it has like some saturation or distortion you can put on it, but it's more like a glossing over the top is what it kind of feels like. It doesn't seem like it's, like you said, like it still sounds too good. And that, I mean, for certain things you want that.
Yeah.
But
totally.
Yeah, if you want some more grit, then yeah, the Kyra is probably not one that you'd want to go for. And even like with the Hydra and stuff like that, even though those things can sound kind of crunchy, that's kind of more like, those to me seem like that's the style of the day, like the flavor of the day. And I don't know if that's going to be an attractive synth in 10 years.
Yeah,
or if people are going to hate it because it's going to get overused and, you know, who knows? I don't know. But
it tends to lead toward a specific genre.
Yes. So I don't know.
What were you going to say, Mr. CowFood?
Oh, well, again, I think that the reason that like the JP or Jupiter 8 still commands really continues to grow in price. Those analogs, they tend to have their own characteristics, their own life, their own like sound, and even from one synth to another, you'll see differences between each one, where it's almost like it's alive, and that's the best way I can describe why it is that they fetch such high pricing. Because each one is almost unique to itself, and across different, I mean, the same synth, you'll find differences just because of the aging of the componentry inside. So,
well, that was something that
whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know.
Well, that's something I noticed with my little fatty here, because I've had 3 of those. When I started out, I got my first analog synth that was a little fatty, and then I got poor and needed to buy food one day, and so I had to sell it. And then I bought another one, and then I got poor again, and I had to sell it. And then this is the 3rd one. But they've all sounded different, like subtle amounts of difference, and that comes down to the analog components inside, even those which are fairly modern compared to like a Jupiter 8, which is like 1 million years old now.
Yeah. And when it comes to like the debate between original 303 versus the clones from, say, Behringer for now, they say they sound different, but it's also true between one original 303 and another original 303. They all sound different from each other. Same with the 101s. And of course that extends even further to like OBXA or the polysynths. They all kind of have their own idiosyncrasies, and as a consequence, I think that's why they tend to go up in prices, because they actually kind of have their own life to them, their own like unique character, which from one to the other, you're going to sound a little different from one artist to another.
Right, and even
that's not necessarily true with digital.
Yeah, because even with the digital sense, like, you know, if you bought a JP8000, it's going to sound just like every other JP8000, right? It's not going to have the nuance between units necessarily because it's all digital.
But this is just my opinion. I mean, that's
Well,
one reason why
how
the
dare
prices
you,
get so high.
CowFood, have your
I know.
own opinion? How dare you?
It's crazy.
What kind of show is this?
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, can't believe you. Just kidding. Yeah, so, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next 10 years since we're coming into a new decade. It's the 20s again, the roaring 20s. Let's hope we don't have, stock market crashes, and etc. But the thoughts on 2020, do you guys have, I mean, obviously we've already got some rumors about things coming out, but anything that you'd like to see or that you're excited to see that we know about or kind of know about? Aaron?
All right. I tend to agree with Mr. CowFood that the trend is probably going to continue, that you're going to have more analogs and you're going to have more digitals. I would like to see more hybrids because in my experience, if it's done right, you can have basically the advantages of both in one box. And I can't think of anything wrong with that. But as far as hybrids, in 2019, yeah, the Summit and the Quantum. I don't know. Was there anything else that you can think of, guys, hybrid-wise?
Well, the Quantum was 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay. But recently.
I mean, technically, you could even technically, in a way, say that the Moog 1 is a hybrid because it's got digital effects, but all the sound architecture is all analog too. But
yeah,
I don't know if you'd really call that a hybrid. The hybrid to me would mean you either have analog or digital oscillators with the different
combining of analog and digital somewhere in the signal chain
in the sound generating parts.
But
of the synth,
I think there's more room for innovation in that space than if they just stick with digital or stick with analog.
Well, I will say also,
I think you're right.
Yeah. The thing is like something like the Hydrasynth or the Argon 8, where they're taking kind of more. Those synths are. The thing that makes them cool to me is that they're kind of more like where you're seeing innovation in the plug-in world, but in a hardware synth, which is kind of cool. So, I don't know if we'll see more of that. Maybe hybrid versions with more capabilities on the synth engine side of things, because there's only so much you can do analog oscillators, right? And I guess Korg's approach to that with their multi-engine in the XD or the Prologue combined with traditional analogs, or even like the Prophet X, where it's got a sample engine with some traditional analog oscillators as well. Those are all cool ideas too, so I don't know.
Well, there was one announced that we didn't touch on yet. The Udo Super 6 hybrid.
Oh yes, I totally forgot. Which that's.
I thought the
I guess
Super
going to be released
6 was
early.
FPGA
2020.
and all digital.
Yes, it's a FPGA synth. I don't know if it's got. I think it has analog filters though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Which is why it commands a high price. That thing's going to compete with the Summit for sure.
Yeah, it's going for 2,800.
And it's got a stereo signal path, so it cuts the polyphony in half, but you get true stereo voicing per channel, left and right.
Yep.
So, and that's interesting because it has no screen. Let me bring up a picture of that one.
Analog filters. That explains why it sounds so good. I didn't realize that.
Well, yeah, it's like analog filters combined with those FPGA oscillators is like heaven.
Well, and to me, the oscillators, one of the things that I was never real crazy about on the peak is, and I think it's actually the tone of the filter on the peak. It leans toward a little bit of a plasticky blue sound. It's hard for me to describe, but I never the Udo Super 6 seems to sound more Roland-y, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the intention. It's also very Roland-esque with the slider design.
Yeah, I think he's aiming for,
yeah,
Roland enthusiasts with it.
Exactly. But it's still looking not like a clone per se. Just kind of has a...
I think it's a triumph in how synth design should be done.
Right, and the nice thing is, without having a screen, you're not distracted with parameters buried in the menu somewhere. You've got direct knob per function here on this. I assume that maybe there's some shift functions here and there, but you don't have to worry about the screen, which might be kind of weird in a way, because sometimes you can get pretty deep into a synth engine because of having a screen, but I don't know. Maybe...
I don't know the depth of modulation available on the Super 6. I haven't heard much about that. So it may just not, the modulation may not be that complex, because like you say, without a screen, a modulation matrix, usually you're going to have, what is that, a grid of holes and little things that you stick in them, or...
Yeah. Or like the Maxi Brute, right?
The Synthy or whatever that was.
The Maxi Brute, right, CowFood?
Yeah, the Maxi Brute.
We were talking about the Matrix Brute, and Mr. CowFood was calling it the Maxi Brute.
No, it's a good synth. It's just, it has this Arturia sound.
That's true. You either like it
you like
or
that
you
sound,
don't. Yeah.
Then it's great. It's one of those sounds that you either like, hate, or love.
At least it's its own thing. We'll
True.
say that. And it looks really cool.
I loved everything about it. It just took up half of the space that I have. So it's huge.
It is big. It's a big boy.
But I didn't know I liked Steiner Parker filters until I had a Matrix Brute.
Well, that's the other thing, is like that synth has having two filters on it. See, when I started with I started early with a MIDI tracker, but then my first DAW was Reason, if you call that a DAW, I guess, yes, but it's all kind of was its own ecosystem back then. And it has the Maelstrom synthesizer in there, which is their own granular style synth, I guess. And it had two filters on it. And so when I was learning synthesis, I was learning on this thing that had two filters. And seeing that in hardware form was really cool, because a lot of traditional subtractive synths only have one filter. So the Matrix Brute was the first synth. I mean, I guess the V-Synth you could do a couple of filters. So I guess that was technically my first synth that had that, but I don't know. It seemed to be implemented very nicely on the Maxi Brute.
Yeah, I've had a Synthicom, Steiner Parker Synthicom, for a period of time. My God, the filters on that. To die for. The sound that comes out of it, too, if you've ever heard one. I encourage you to look one up.
What's it called?
Steiner Parker Synthicom.
Yeah.
Con.
Synthicon. Is it con or com? I can't remember.
Synthicon, like Decepticon?
Yeah, I think that's how it's spelled, with an N at the end, yeah.
I'll look it up. Good old Google.
Synthicon.
I guess it's a pretty vintage filter
It's
design.
a con.
I think I actually
I'm probably totally spelling it wrong. Synthicon.
have a modular version of that filter.
Is it Synthicon?
A is Apple. C-O-N.
Synthicon.
Some on it up. Yeah. With an N at the end for Nancy.
And
Yeah,
is
Steiner
in
Parker Synthicon.
Nancy.
Monophonic analog from '75.
Yeah, here. Is that right here?
Yep, that's the
The
one.
synths
Look
went
at
away,
that.
but the filter stuck around.
See,
There's
that's...
little colored switches on it. It's
I wish I could make this picture bigger.
That's how you design a synthesizer.
Well, I mean, it's even got the
aesthetics
handle
are
on the top, man.
Impeccable aesthetics.
I bet you
aesthetics.
could drop that out of a building and it would still be fine.
Yeah.
no. Don't do it.
don't
It's
don't.
precious.
CowFood did it, and it didn't go well.
You know, it kind of reminds me of the little piano that the guy from Peanuts plays, and he's just like sitting down on the floor jamming.
There you go.
Because it's
Yep.
got like the little feet under it, so that's it kind of reminds me of that.
I don't know if Snoopy could dance on top of that though.
Yeah, yeah. He should. He should be all right. Anyway, that's pretty cool. So
The sound of it is amazing.
and
That's all I can tell you.
the river, the blah blah blah.
Borland, the river.
Borland the river, that has a similar kind of form factor to that. It's like a boxy look. I like that though, because you can put stuff on top of it, like your drink.
Well, it looks like it'd take two people to carry the river.
Yes, and I think the river is based on the Moog Source oscillators. It's like a polyphonic Moog Source. And it sounds delightful. I really hope to get one day.
Above my pay grade. If I'm ever buying one
Yeah.
of those, it means I've made it in life.
Yes. Because, yeah, they're not
Never
cheap.
know.
They're not cheap.
And the wait list, I'm sure, is probably years out.
Well, I don't know. I emailed them and I never even heard back. So, admittedly, I didn't try that hard because I'm like, do I want to spend another $5,000? Probably, but don't. You know, I don't know. I'm trying to talk myself out of it at the same time, but yeah. So they probably because they only make a certain amount per year. So I don't know.
Would a river fit on one of your 3-tiered stands?
No, well, it'd probably fit on the bottom of one. But I'm planning to, in 2020, we can kind of get into this as well, like some gas, like plans for what I'm planning to do or what you guys are planning to do. So I'm going to replace these stands with some Jaspers. And I'll probably get a couple of 6 tiers because this is not even what I have. I have a whole other room like full of some stuff that needs to be... I don't like having things separated like that because if I want to use it, I have to pull it out of there and bring it in here, and I don't want to do that. So I want to get enough racks with enough tiers to put all my, keyboard hardware and have it out. That'd be nice. That's on my to-do list. And I'm pretty sure I can get a river to fit on one of those.
You'll make it fit.
I'll make it fit. CowFood.
Gas for 2020 and beyond, it's probably just going to be the same kind of thing. Furniture. I got to look into redesigning the studio because Behringer has crowded my space to the point where I got to find a way to set all this stuff up properly, or at least have the space to set it up in a proper manner. So maybe some new monitors for a separate setup, a little mixer. I can swap between 2 different recording areas.
A little workstation somewhere else.
Yeah, something like that. So that's about it. I don't have any big plans for like a major synth of any kind.
Do you think if the rumors are true of the 2600 that might be something you'd be interested in? Are you a big fan of that synth?
Probably not. Because I've got a lot of Eurorack stuff that takes care of what that would do.
Gotcha. And it's Eurorack, so it's a lot smaller form factor overall, probably, because it looks like if that's what we think it is, it's probably going to be a full-size thing.
Full scale.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it would take up too much room. I don't think it would work for me unless it had some specific sounds that I was dying to have.
R2D2?
Yeah.
Yeah, R2D2. If I need that, then maybe, but otherwise, I think I've got my analogs in order when it comes to that type of format.
And you've got a peak, so you're good there with some FPGA digital goodness.
The one thing I guess I'm kind of gassing over is I'm still debating on whether I should get a Rev 2 or maybe a Prophet 6. And I got the OB6, so maybe I should pair it up with a Prophet 6.
Well, do they sound that much different?
That's the thing. Well, they do in some sense because the filters are so different.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
that'd be a bit of a limitation.
And there's also a little more smoothness coming out of the oscillators on the Prophet 6. It's more of an ambient machine, whereas the OB6 is it's more aggressive. It's got some character.
You can get some better leads probably out of the OB6.
Probably
Some
yes,
brighter sounding.
better,
I wouldn't say better, but just,
brighter.
Yeah.
Brighter and more in your face.
Yeah.
I would say when it comes to the OB6, whereas it's more tame and pad geared when it comes to the Prophet 6. That's again my opinion.
Oh yeah.
You can still make an OB6 sound delicious and lush ambient type pads and textures, but it's a little harder to make it fit than it is with the Prophet 6 from what I've seen.
And I assume that's why you have an OB6 then.
Yeah. That's, by the way, the synth of the 2010s, in my opinion.
Is that one?
Is the OB6.
Do you think it's the best synth of the last 10 years?
Well, that's hard to say because I don't have all the synths in the past 10 years.
What?
Yeah, I know. Why not? But
Yeah,
for
well,
me,
Marshall
it's-
does.
No. 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 I don't even have any DSI stuff, so an OB6 I don't even have one of those. What would you say?
That's the one I would put the vote for.
Okay, well let's ask Aaron real quick. What any gas that you have or would like to see?
One thing I'm definitely going to keep my eye on the 2600. It's going to depend on how big, how big they make it, and the price. But even if it is, 2000, I might still really seriously look at it. I did have my eye on the Xerxes, the Black Corporation Xerxes, which is I can't remember, the name escapes me now, but it's based Elka Synths, I think it's a recreation of.
Yep.
I just really like
Glad
the
you
sound
brought
of
them
that, and I finally heard some good demos on SoundCloud of the Xerxes, and it's a really good sound, but I'm not sure that I need to spend $3,000 to get it. So then I am building a small. Yeah, that's it right there. I mean, it looks like Black Corporation is getting better and better with everything they're doing, and this looks like their design, form factor, and it's a little less. Actually, it's a little less expensive than the Deckard's Dream and Kajimi.
This kind of reminds me of Studio Electronics, which they actually had a new synth announced.
Really?
As well, yeah. I'll have to see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. As far as gas, though, I have a small 84 HP Euro rack that I've already. It's going to be filled up when the modules arrive from Brazil that I ordered. So, yeah, I'm not in a hurry to replace things. I've got a pretty good palette to work with, which that's what I try to do is have a variety of filters also, which this little 84 HP rack, it's going to have 5 different filters in there. It's going to be nice. Yeah, that's basically why I made it. So I want to be able to have, just about every filter that I like the sound of at my disposal. So.
Yes, this was the Studio Electronics MIDI Mini V30.
Huh.
So,
is that like a more usable SEO2, dare I say?
Yes, I think they kind of.
I mean, that layout
basically was.
Oh my word, that might be what it is.
That's basically what I recall it being kind of.
That knob layout is almost 1-to-1.
Yeah, but these are going to be much better than the SEO2. But this is also not SEO2 price. So we're talking $3,000 for this bad boy.
Studio Electronics price. Everything they sell is 4 figures.
Yeah. So this is I forgot all about this actually. I saw this the other day and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I wouldn't mind getting one of their Code 8s, actually.
Yeah, that's like the holy grail in rack mount analog.
Yeah.
You put, I think, 3 different filter types in one box.
Exactly, and you can pick even.
Mix and match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get them all at once, I don't think.
And the colors. Colors of that rack.
Can you still get it in all those different colors? Because there's been a lot of different colors over the years on the Code 8.
Really?
I've seen some
I've only
pretty
seen
wild
like
yellow ones
rainbow
even.
colors.
Yeah. Yeah, they got a variety of colored options there. I think you can even get them custom graphic printed front or.
Really?
I mean, it's what is it? It's either 5,000 or 8,000. It's a really expensive synthesizer. So they have some bells and whistle options there.
I used to have a Voyatra 8, which is maybe a competitor of sorts, but a little before the Code 8 came out.
Yeah, that's interesting. This is, I didn't even know this existed until a couple of years ago. Well, yeah, maybe like 2 years ago. So it's interesting when you find out these other little synth makers that have been around for a long time, and you're just feel dumb because you just found out about them.
Yeah, studio electronics is interesting because they somehow continually fly under the radar, but they're still making stuff. They've been making stuff forever. I think probably their more popular line of late was the Boomstar line.
Yep.
And that was, pretty much probably the best mono synth I've ever laid hands on was one of those. And they've got a Mark II Boomstar line, and they're responsible for most of the SEO2. I'm guessing all Roland did was manufacture it and distribute it, because it doesn't sound like a Roland piece of gear. The SEO2 sounds like a Studio Electronics piece of gear.
Yeah.
And it looks like a Studio Electronics piece of gear. So and I'm sure that helped them get a little more exposure by having their name on that.
Yeah, unfortunately the filter on it left some to be desired.
Oh, you can get the extra giant breakout box for another
$150.
$100?
Yeah.
$150?
Yeah, no, I've got one. I haven't even hooked it up. I bought it when they announced it, and I should test it out, but so many synths, so little time. I don't know.
You're sounding old there, Marshall.
I know. It is a little overwhelming sometimes because you want to get these things, but then it's like, when am I going to use that? Do I really need that kind of thing? So I don't know. But yeah, that's interesting. This is one of those companies that I didn't realize who they were really, I think, until the SEO2 actually. So yes. So sorry, I was cutting somebody off with their gas. What's your gas there, Aaron? Anything else?
I think that's it. The recent shift toward the later half of 2019 has been, since I started working on my game soundtrack, I just lost all patience for VCOs. So everything right now is DCO or digital, and other than the rack, everything else can take presets. Because I'm hoping to do more game soundtrack stuff, and the no patch VCO equipment sounds fantastic, but as far as working and being productive, I just, when the AC kicks on in the summer, things drift. When the heater kicks on in the winter, things drift, and I just don't have the patience for that. So it's helped to cut down a lot of gas, because it's like, well, okay, I'm looking at DCOs and I'm looking at digital hybrid stuff, and it's got to have presets, and I prefer knob per function. And
yep, well, that helps kind of narrow down the list then. That's for sure.
It's actually helped me a lot. Like, okay, this is what I want to work with. What's on that list, and it's a much smaller list.
Yeah.
And it's been a breath of fresh air. I can walk in here, kick everything off, on, and immediately I can get to work. I don't have to go.
You don't need your 10-minute Roland fake warm-up routine.
Yeah, and I haven't had to use this, and that's getting a little dust on it.
Whoa, little tuner.
No.
Old tuner, haven't had to use it in a while.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
So has anybody picked up any synths already this year? Have you guys already either pre-ordered something or already bought something and you're just either it's arrived or you're waiting for it to arrive? Anything?
Just modules for me just to finish out the 84 HP.
Oh, I picked up a lot of stuff, but as far as pre-orders go...
Well, I'm talking about, like, so far this year, have you ordered anything new? I know we're only 4 days in.
I ordered the modules weeks ago, but they're coming from Brazil, so that's a long trip.
Okay.
No. No, I did buy the Pro 1 from Behringer.
Nice.
So
Are either of
when
you...
I get back, I will see.
Are either of you guys... so there's the two synths that Behringer's come out with that I didn't know were things like the Wasp and the Cat. The Cat is something that I had heard was kind of akin to the Odyssey. Do you know any?
I think about it while we were doing the show. The Cat was a competitor to the Odyssey, and it's got more features than the Odyssey. I'm curious to see what it sounds like, because I really like what the front panel looks like and what it appears to be able to do. I've just never heard one. I never heard of the Cat till today.
Neither had I. But apparently there's like a big kerfuffle. At some point, ARP sued Cat or whatever I don't know if that's the company name too, but sued them over the
Octave.
Yeah, because it's like the exact same form. The original is almost the exact same form factor. Like the chassis looks just like an Odyssey, other than the design is slightly different.
Funny that Behringer would clone a clone of a clone. Is that what we're into here?
Well, I don't know if it's technically a clone though, because then you go and you watch G4 Software, old Mr. Dave Spears over there, saying that it's not close enough to where I think the lawsuit even got thrown out on it. So I don't know. Do you know anything about that, CowFood?
No, I did not know anything.
It's an interesting subject. I need to do some more research on it, but yeah. Had you heard of the Cat before?
Oh, I've heard.
Okay,
but I hadn't heard one. I've never had one
to actually hear what it sounds like. Okay,
used.
so we don't know if it. There's no one on this panel that has firsthand experience with what one sounds like then. So that's all I was curious about.
I'm guessing it sounds similar to an Odyssey if they were competing in the same market during the same era.
Yeah.
That's yes. It can do triangle waves, so it may be closer to a 2600. Who knows?
It's interesting because some of those like the Wasp, like, or that one, or even the TD3, those are things I would not have guessed would have gotten clones made. I guess the TD3 maybe, but being that it's been cloned by so many other manufacturers over the years,
more popular synths to clone, as I understand it.
Yeah. Yep. Probably, and because more people can get their hands on them. But it just seems that I don't know. But I guess you do it, and you do it for $150, and that it's going to sell a bunch. Because I've ordered 2 of them actually, because they've come out with the different colors now. I ordered a black one and a yellow one. So
here's
where'd you get those from?
I called my Sweetwater guy and told him to change my order as soon as they announced those color changes. Did you hear about that, CowFood?
Well, I heard about the color. Obviously, we talked about it.
Oh yeah, we chatted.
But I didn't know that Sweetwater actually had those available to order.
Well, I don't know if they. I just called my guy and I said, "Order me those, please, now."
Okay. Well, you're gonna wait then. You're gonna have to.
That's okay.
Sit on your laurels for a while.
I'll wait because the silver looked okay, but like it's not really a 303, so I don't. But the red and the blue I didn't really like at all, so I was like, I'll take a silver. But I was like, it would be cool if they had a black one. I remember you and I talked about this on one of the shows, CowFood, that they should do that. That'd be cool. And then they did.
Yeah, black for sure.
Yes. So then then they have a yellow one too, which is cool because instead of having because the yellow smiley face is like synonymous with acid house music or whatever. So they made a yellow one with, instead of a Behringer logo, it's got a smiley face on it. And I was like, that's cool. I want that one too. So I'll just get 2 of them. And then I'll hook them up together.
Was it the same price for the smiley face?
I don't know.
one?
I didn't ask. It doesn't
do it anyway. Whatever it is, I don't care. Just buy it.
I can't imagine. I mean,
All right.
They're going to charge you another $50 for a smiley face? I hope not. That would suck.
So I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Given that Behringer has basically had a tsunami of synthesizers this year, what do you think that bodes for the future?
That's a good question.
I mean, can they keep up this pace? And if they do, how deep into that clone bucket? I don't know how much. What else is there to clone?
How deep can they reach in there?
Yeah.
Without, well, you know, it makes me wonder with some things. I think they might be having. They might be stuck a little bit. Like we still haven't.
The polys.
Well, we still haven't seen like the 909 clone. You know that they teased 2 years ago, almost at NobCon 2018, because they weren't even at 2019. So I don't know if there's some sticky points in there, because, like, for example, that drum machine has some samples. It's not fully analog, so
okay, yeah.
Do you get those samples? Are they part? Is that something that
might have to
Roland
license them?
Has control over? Exactly. So so I don't know. Then you've got the OBXA, which we have not heard anything about in a long time either. I don't know where that's at. I don't know. I'd like to see more full-fledged synths, though. Like, as cool as some of the little box recreations are, and they make sense, especially if you're crunched for space.
Yeah.
I like full-size stuff. I like full keys. The Poly Ds, although I don't like the cosmetics of it because, you know, I'm a Moog guy, but at least it's a full-size instrument.
I like the direction they're going with that one.
Yeah. And like the DeepMind 12 is great. So like more stuff like that with maybe a little better keyboard, because the DeepMind 12 keyboard kind of is not the best thing. But full-featured, full-sized, at least 49 key synths. I'd like to see something like that.
Well, yeah. Speaking of gas, then I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in for the CS80 or DS80. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah. Well,
BS80.
So,
you don't think they'd call it the BS80?
They should.
Bullshit.
Maybe they should.
Behringer synth.
But
bullshit.
Embrace it.
Just go with it, man.
If it's going to cost $2,000, I might just say, well, maybe I'll go with Black Corporation's Deckard Street instead.
Well, it'll depend on,
looking at.
Because the Deckard's Dream didn't include all the features of the CS80, so you had to buy the extra 1U add-on for another $1,000, and that gave you your ring mod and the original chorus, or close to the original chorus. But generally, the tone of the Deckard's Dream is more polite than the CS80.
Oh, really?
I had the Deckard's Dream for a few months. I was like, this is my dream synth. Let's go with it. And it just didn't satisfy in the same way that the recordings and even a VST or two. And I know some of it was the lack of the ring mod on the Deckard's Dream itself, but it just sounded cleaner and more polite. And it's not meant, they don't market it as a one-to-one clone. It's inspired by. Still, it sounds fantastic and it has a totally unique sound. But I would be surprised if Behringer didn't aim more toward being a clone of the CS80 as close as they can. And if they do, that thing should sound pretty big and hefty, and excel for both grit and butter.
And hopefully poly aftertouch, because they did say that they have finished developing their poly aftertouch keybed. So maybe that's why they did that, so that we can have that on the CS80, the BS80 clone, whatever.
Yeah. BS80.
Yeah, bullshit 80.
Will they have the patch, the Savior patch panel that the original CS80 had? That remains to be seen.
There was a whole extra flip-up
Yeah.
thing with the tiny little...
Well, and
Sliders on it.
it probably would. I mean, because you think about it, they cloned the TD3 and copied the terrible sequencer in that. So...
But are they going to clone the weight of it? Because that'll be a huge problem in price.
It's got to be the size of an upright grand piano.
No.
Right.
Yeah, it'll definitely be smaller.
I've seen the mock-ups, and the mock-ups look like they're heading in a good direction.
Yeah, it's just the size of components, just electronics in general. They're smaller.
Yeah,
you don't have to use
surface mount or whatever.
Yeah, you don't have to use through-hole components for everything. So there's the fact that everything can be surface mount means that it's going to be an order of magnitude smaller. Like the MS-20 Mini here, they shrank that down 80% with slim keys. Or what do they call them? Are they slim keys or
mini keys? I think they're mini keys because slim keys are the same depth but just narrower, whereas mini is less deep and less wide.
Okay, so these are slim then on the MS-20.
But I won't. I don't buy anything with mini or slim as a. That's one of my other rules that makes it easier.
Would you prefer then to just buy a desktop or a module and use a controller?
Yeah, I always prefer desktop or module whenever, or rack
versus mini or slim keys.
I'm a rack guy, definitely a rack guy.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting on Behringer to wow me with some stuff. Maybe then I'll have some gas.
But currently, you're pretty satisfied gas tank wise. You're pretty full.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. What would Behringer have to do to wow you? To trigger your sensibilities?
Basically, to hit all the marks with the sound. I mean, if it has, when it comes to like the CS80, I would definitely need to hear some float that works in the same way. It gives that same analog, that life feeling to it. If it doesn't have that, then it's too clean. Like you were saying with the Decker's Dream, then it's probably going to be something I'll just pass on.
Based on their clone of the Odyssey, I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to get really close to a proper CS80 clone. Because their Odyssey clone actually sounded more gritty than the Korg Odyssey clone.
Yep.
Well, in CowFood, you've got the Carp Odyssey.
I do.
It sounds fantastic. I love the Korg Arp Odyssey.
Right, you would have saved yourself.
It's got that mellow sound, but that gritty sound is also cool. So I'm like, I wish.
Yeah, and it's
I'm
also.
not gonna spend the money to buy.
I like that it's a module. I don't need the full size Odyssey.
Oh, I see.
That's a lot of space.
That's true.
The one thing that was really interesting about the Behringer Odyssey is they put a stereo delay on a synth with a mono audio output jack.
Yeah, I still don't.
That's kind of like, what are you doing?
I'm not sure what's going on.
Put something else on there. What are you doing with that right now?
Dude, it was cheaper to put a stereo delay on there probably than to add a new delay that is just.
I'm guessing they got a collection of algorithms from the pedal division and say, hey guys, send us some algorithms for the Odyssey, and they sent them. And,
right. Something to that effect. So I didn't really think
that's like having a color TV with a black and white VCR, if that's even such a thing.
Well, if you can tint the black and white toward green or yellow or whatever, that's.
It's really nitpicky. I'm just giving him shit for that. It's not a big deal. They did good on it. GeoSense.
But I have high hopes for them.
He had a great demo of that.
And with the and I'd love to see a DeepMind 12 Mark II. I'd really like to see that.
Yes.
Wouldn't we all?
The DeepMind 24. Ooh my gosh. Deeper mind.
The chorus. With the chorus in it that the Poly D is.
Yeah, because that Poly D chorus did sound freaking awesome.
The parody chorus.
Parody 40. Oh, that was, that's something that's cropped up again is paraphonic versus polyphonic. I don't want to necessarily get into the black hole of that right now, but the same thing happened when the Matrix Brute was announced, we got into a big kerfuffle over polyphonic versus paraphonic.
Is that when Doty dropped his video?
That was when I first remember, like, why is everybody yelling about this? Because I'm not old school like Doty, although I understand where he's coming from, and I technically believe he's correct, obviously. But
Yeah.
the way companies have marketed these instruments over the last however many years, at least since I've been in it, is paraphonic is what we think as paraphonic in general, and the way companies have marketed it. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting because I didn't realize that that was such a touchy thing. And then, of course, the Poly D comes out, and Behringer puts Poly in the name on a synth that traditionally we would not consider. Well, not traditionally, but in the modern era, we would not call that a Poly anything. We would call it a para.
My guess is it's a throwback to the Korg monopoly.
Yes.
Which was actually paraphonic.
Yes, exactly.
So if they say, okay, that's what it is, then you say, okay, well, maybe you can get away with it.
Okay, but it's not the 70s anymore, you guys.
Yeah, I think it's misleading, but I think it was a marketing choice first.
Well, the whole thing's a marketing choice. I mean, they make it look like a mini Moog. You know? So, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it sounds good.
It's a paradox.
It's a paradox.
There you go.
That's
it's
they
a paradox.
Oh my god.
There's a perfect synth name, somebody out there. Paradox. Nothing but gold ideas on this show.
That's right.
Trademarked it.
Trademark, stamp it, ship it.
Double stamped it, triple stamped it.
Yeah. Vogon Fleet's all over that one.
Vogon Fleets.
So yeah, I guess I didn't talk about any of my gas. I'll just briefly touch on that, and then we can either talk about whatever or wrap the show up, whatever you guys like to do. Yeah, so far in 2020, I have already bought a synth, and it will be here Monday. And it is a JP8080. And
that's the rack version, right?
That's the rack version. I have an 8000, and
you got room in your rack for that, or are you gonna have to make room?
No, I do not have room in the rack. I'm gonna have to buy another rack for it. So, well, not just for that, but I mean,
you can fill up another rack.
I could probably get pretty close to filling up another at least 20U racks with some other stuff. So that's on the way. Obviously the Korg ARP 2600, if that's what indeed we think it is. And
they're doing it with ARP, so I expect good things.
Yes, me too. That's definitely on my radar. The Udo Super 6. I'd like to possibly get one of those. We'll see what happens. I'm at the point now where I have so much, though. It's like, I don't know. It's gotta do something pretty cool at this point. So we'll see. And I do have an affinity for 90s stuff, so I have a lot of the modules from Roland from 90s through the 2000s.
But you don't have a 1080?
I don't have a 1080, but I have the Cloud, which has the 1080 in it.
Yeah. But you don't have a 1080, Marshall.
I don't. Should
That's
I get
right.
one? I should probably get one. No, I'm just kidding. The problem with those is I'm not sure if the 1080 is expandable. It probably is, because most of these are. That's where the problem is. And where the software helps you out a lot is you get all of those. All of those
the full expansion.
Yes, you get all the expansion cards and everything. But I'd probably say out of these, my favorite one is the XV5080, which if I would have waited a year, now it's in the cloud. So, I don't know. But, yeah. Still got the Proteus, though. The Proteus sounds pretty cool. It's got some really nice percussion in it that I hadn't realized. Yeah, so I really like that. But anyway, so yeah, some 90s VAs, like I could see maybe picking up some other stuff from that era pretty soon. Yeah. Well, and
I know one question I had.
Yes.
What's your favorite synth of the last decade? I don't know if I got either of those from you.
No, I don't think so. Of the last decade, it's tough. I mean, the Moog 1 is my dream synth. Like, that's the synth I've wanted Moog to make pretty much since I got into synthesizers. But my favorite synth probably of all time has got to be my little fatty. So, and that's
the white one?
That's the white one. But those are a little bit before the last decade. Those are like 2006. Yeah. I think the Slim Fatty is 2010, which I have that too, but I don't know. So I guess of the last 10 years, I'd have to go with the Moog 1 then, because it's technically in the last 10 years. If there was no Moog 1, then I'd say the Quantum. So that'd be me. Did we get that from you? Favorite synth of the last?
Mine was the OB6.
OB6.
Aaron.
I'd have a hard time saying, because I've only been using hardware since 2017, and my favorite synth to listen to is the Prophet 6, but I've never actually owned one. And I do have the Mofo X4, which sounds close enough that I haven't felt the need to spend the money for a Prophet 6. So right now the Mofo X4 is my favorite synth, but it's from 2007 or 2009. I can't remember exactly. I got it right at the end. It's no longer in production. When it went out of production during the last year, I think.
I didn't realize that. It's been in production that long. Wow.
Yeah, I was amazed. They've been in production for a good while, but yeah, I'd have to look it up to see if the X4, how long it's been in production, but I'm pretty sure it's prior to 2010. So, yeah, I'd say the Prophet 6, but I don't feel like that's a very honest answer, because I've never physically laid hands on a Prophet 6. That's when I started thinking about getting into hardware. I was in software for a decade before that, and I heard some demos of the Prophet 6, and I was like, oh, this is what I'm missing by using software, is a synth that sounds like that. And then I saw the price tag. I was like, okay, well, maybe I can use something else. And I ended up pre-ordering a Peak, and that was great, but it's not a Prophet 6 as far as the tone. So that's my best weak answer.
Well, you did briefly have the Deckard Stream, and I guess you're looking at a Xerxes.
Yeah, those. I guess I had high hopes for the Deckard Stream, but it just the missing features, and mine wouldn't stay in tune for more than 15 minutes, and I updated multiple firmwares. I couldn't figure it out. But the tuning would never stabilize. I could have it on for 3 hours, and I'd still have to tune it every 15 minutes or so. I'm not sure what that was about. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be hard. It being somewhat early to hardware and learning a lot more about filters and just different components. You know, I'm not as in love with the filter on which I realize the way a filter sounds is a combination of the oscillators and how hard the oscillators hit the filter. And it could be that the general polite nature of the Deckard Stream made the filter, the CS80 style filter, not sound the way I want a filter to sound. But, you know, the Prophet 6 filter just sounds amazing to me.
Okay.
So you just weren't having it, Deckard Stream.
Well, for the amount of money that it costs, you know, it's like it's like you with the Moog 1, I imagine. You know, there's probably a certain line there we'd say, okay, I'm just going to send this back, and maybe in a few years I'll look at it again when they've got it straightened out.
It's I will not lie, it has crossed my mind a couple times. Yeah. The only reason probably that's prevented me from doing that, honestly, is it's a low serial number. And I would not get
number 7, right?
Number 7. So, and I'm confident they'll get everything worked out of it. But being that it's been a year in and some basic things, it's a little frustrating to have that much invested in something that does not perform like it needs to. You know, it's tough. But it's still super cool, and it is, like I said, my dream synth that I've wanted to have Moog make. So yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, 2020, guys. I'm excited about this this year coming up. We'll see what happens. Some good things happening. So I guess we're kind of open for open discussion, comments, anything you guys would like to talk about.
So is Nam's coming pretty soon?
Yes, so NAM is
NAM?
end of the month.
Okay,
Let's
so
check.
I'm guessing we'll get a flood of whoever doesn't do teasers. Well, now, is this one of the shows that Behringer doesn't even go to?
Yeah, Behringer is usually not there. I don't think Moog is there either.
Okay.
We forgot to actually mention, because I know that it's been received very well for the most part, seems to be, as the matriarch.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, CowFood, you and I had talked about the matriarch on the last little podcast we did.
I'm surprised neither of you have a matriarch. Why is that?
For me, I'm not. I want something that I can store patches and, like,
Yeah.
we were talking, the semi-modular synths. Like, I have an MS-20. I want an ARP 2600, but the matriarch was one that I was kind of like, I kind of don't. It sounds great, but I just don't want to deal with it. So if that makes sense.
There's no excuse really for me not to have one, because I do have quite a modular setup. But
Don't be hard on
on the
yourself.
other hand, it's getting into the. This is 4 voices for $2,000, and I
Yeah.
love the voices, but again,
Paraphonic
$2,000.
voices.
Yes, paraphonic. But a stereo filter, stereo delay. But I mean, I've got those things already. So, but 4 voices. But
So
that's $2,000.
no Poly D for you.
No, I mean, I could probably find a module to help me, like, give me some paraphony in my Euro rack for cheaper than it would be for me to just pick up a matriarch and find the room. That's sort of where I'm at. I mean, there's great modules, by the way. If I really want to go there, I could pick up 4 of those AJH oscillators, which are basically the minimum. Or Moog
Those aren't cheap.
oscillators. No, they're not.
I think they're the best out there, too, as far as getting a Moog clone
Oh yeah, and then
modules.
throw in as many oscillators as you want, so you can make your own 4 or 5 oscillator, whatever. And you can basically build a Poly D with the proper, I mean, the real proper sound, the AJH stuff.
I think 2 of those modules cost the same as a Para-D, though.
They're $300, so you can get them
Yeah.
used, like $260 for one
Oh, okay.
oscillator, something like that. So you can part it out to cost under $1,000 and have 4 oscillators, which is more
Yeah.
than big. And it's gonna sound great. There's a YouTube channel by a guy named Dreams of Wires, who has
Big fan.
AGH synth.
Yeah, they have that awesome
She-
documentary. Is that the same thing?
They're different. They're different. He's his own
Different?
thing.
Oh, okay.
But Dreams of Wires is his channel is separate from Dreams of Wires the documentary, as far as I know.
Okay.
And in any case, he is big on AJH synth, modular synthesis. And if you're a fan of his already, then I don't have to explain to you, Aaron. I've got one of the AJH's SEM module for filtering. If you're looking at filling a bank of 82 HP with filters, I would say go for one of those too.
I've got the Doepfer version of the SEM filter
Oh, okay.
coming from
Brazil.
Juno.co.uk
Oh, okay.
over in the UK. So yeah, and it's like the off yellow one. They've got 2 of them, a silver one and then one that's kind of a vintage
Off yellow.
cream, kind of off yellow.
Oh, cool.
I'm eager to use that. I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely. It's a unique filter. I'm sure the Doepfer one is badass, but AJH
Yeah,
one
everything I've heard of
stereo.
them is. Oh wow, yeah.
That's why I
Well,
had to do it.
I didn't want to go
Okay,
stereo because
stereo
I'm like, if I go stereo, I'm going to basically have double the rack, and The Eurorack is scary enough as it is.
Right. I hear you.
That's why I'm sticking with, okay, I can only fit 84 HP in there.
And that's it.
I don't know. These are famous last words.
Right.
Yeah, you're already deep in the hole. It's too late. We
You're
just throw money into it.
Just jump off the cliff into the Eurorack abyss. Yeah, there is one thing. There is one thing that I don't think anybody has mentioned, and I'm kind of surprised in a way, but maybe it's just me. But you know, the Poly D is named Poly D, and so is this guy. You guys remember Jersey Shore?
I do.
DJ Poly D,
man. Not that I watched it.
All right.
Poly D. That's, yeah, so anyway, I had to bring that up.
I appreciate it.
What you should do is make stickers of that for people that end up buying.
I'm gonna
and put the little Behringer triangle in the lower left.
Yeah, we'll just put a Behringer logo next to Poly D's face here.
Yeah,
there you go. That's where you're buying.
Maybe make that the picture of this video, and it'll be your most clicked on video ever.
Right, the Behringer Poly D. I think I might get in trouble using that, but I don't know. You never know. It could be okay.
Oh, my face hurts now.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, so anything else, guys?
I had something, but I was just mentioning Nom. You know, I'm just curious to see what comes out of that. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Because not everybody does those cute little teaser trailers.
That's true.
So I'm guessing
we're
going to see a lot of other equipment from smaller guys.
Yeah, because some companies don't have the marketing budget to be able to do that. And the nice thing is
Dreadbox. I'd love to see something from Dreadbox.
And the nice thing is with YouTube these days, you know, you send something over to Loopop and you're going to get some pretty good exposure just from something like that, you know.
I think Dreadbox is probably going to. They did show off some Eurorack modules not too long.
Yeah, that's recently they had the Eurorack. People are eager for an Abyss 2. I've heard they're going to do one, but I have not seen anything about an Abyss 2. That's their 4. I think it was 4-voice polyphonic synth they did.
Oh yeah.
It was in a very interesting slanted, kind of a triangular form factor. Had a very
Maybe
unique
they'll make
sound.
It 8-voice.
Well,
if they do that, that would be
in a nice long form factory tour of Dreadbox, the owner of Dreadbox, I can't remember his name, really nice guy, but he said, I don't need more than 4 voices because I have 4 fingers. And he said it very bluntly, so I would be surprised if they'll ever make more than a 4-voice.
So you only...
It was funny.
Do you ever play a synth with just one hand?
Well, sometimes I use both hands, but I've been okay with 4 voices for 6 months or so, and I have not missed having more than 4.
That's true. I mean, I get along fine with 4.
It just depends on how you do your stuff and how you run your effects and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. But if you're one of those people that like really jams out and can play like
I'm not a keyboardist.
Two-handed chords and
I don't even know what to do when I get beyond 4 notes. It just starts to sound like slop.
It's tough. I've been trying to teach myself more on the keyboard styles, but I usually do 3-note chords kind of thing. So 3-4 voices is usually probably enough.
Well, the only time you start to see it is when you, of course, are doing it in Pregio or something to that effect, and you have your envelopes with the release pretty high up.
Yeah, that's true. And you get into
the voice
stealing.
Starts to starts to happen. But that's about it. But otherwise, if you're not playing high on release, then only 4 notes is fine.
And apparently, I only have 4 fingers. Oops, this way. This doesn't count.
Well, now, I did recently start doing turning one oscillator to a 5th, which I hadn't done much of that before. And a cool thing on the Analog 4 is instead of the sub-oscillators being sub-oscillators, you can set them to 5ths. So you've got 2 oscillators, and then you can set each oscillator to have a 5th sub oscillator, and I've been getting some just amazingly large sounding chords out of there, because you can detune the 2 oscillators and then have a sub oscillator on each of those, a 5th down, and if you find the right notes on the keyboard,
That sounds
holy cow!
beautiful.
I mean,
Yeah.
you've eventually got an 8-note chord, or it's a little beyond me, but it sounds really amazing. So that's taken me a leap further than I've been able to go with 4 notes. Just just having 4 voice polyphony, just having that oscillator structure.
That's where something like the Kyra is pretty good, because you have a lot of different noise sources available in these oscillator banks, and in addition you have sub oscillators which you can tune independently as well. So you can get some really just on one timbre you can get some real cool thick sounding.
They kind of start to
timbres.
limit your chord choices when you start adding those 5ths and 3rds.
That's
but
true. Yep.
If you design around it, compose around it. I think I got the closest thing to a Silent Hill type pad sound that I've ever gotten when I started adding those 5ths in. So I'm pretty excited about where I can take that.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Awesome possum.
Yeah, I think with NUM, we're going to see a lot more probably show up on the Eurorack side of things. It's new and exciting, hopefully. I mean, it seems like that's been the trend with every NUM. It's just more and more of these small companies showing off what they can do in the Eurorack.
We are really seeing. I don't have my ear to the ground too much with the Eurorack stuff, but from what I do see here and there, it seems like you're able to get a lot more innovation in that space, just because your company there is dedicated to these specific modules. You're not designing a whole instrument necessarily. You could design a suite of modules, or whatever, but in general you don't have to risk on one product, like our the Moog 1 back there, where if they screw it up, it could be real bad. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and if you've got 10 of them, 10 different modules, and you may be the only guy designing the modules, I recently heard something about how some of the modular companies, even like Pittsburgh Modular, they're actually very small. There's maybe 3 or 4 guys, and it's one of the leading modular companies, but they're still pretty small. Anyway, like Marcel said, if you can get a little crazy with one module, if you sell 15 of them, you can infer, okay, this is going to be our experimental one, and we'll see how it does. Whereas if you're putting out a whole synth, somebody like Roland or Korg, there's a lot more heads coming together to do that, and you've got to have it straight, and you can't go too far off the reservation.
Well, the biggest thing is recently, again, a lot of these instruments have been rushed out, and half of them don't even work correctly when you get them. That's the most frustrating thing that I've seen, that I hope that trend ends. I hope these companies, even if it means you got to delay your instrument for however long, please just make it to where it fucking works. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Is that your 2020 New Year's resolution for the synth manufacturers?
Yes. That should be their resolution, is to bring out products when they're ready.
If you want to see a change in 2020 in the synth world, that's what you want to see.
Yes.
No more beta testing.
No more open, user beta tests after dollars have been spent. I mean, if you want to send one and have me beta test it for you, I will be happy to. But I mean, if I'm putting my money down on this stuff, I would like to have it function correctly when I get it.
The last thing I wanted to mention on the whole Eurorack thing is Behringer did come out with a 104 times 2 case.
But it's not as deep.
That's what you needed to build.
It's not as deep.
Oh, really? How deep is it?
It's less deep enough that Robin from Molten Modular had a hard time fitting a lot of his favorite modules into it. It looks exactly like the Moog 104 case, but it's a half inch or an inch. It's shallower by enough that it causes problems with some of the deeper modules. All my modules are pretty shallow, but sometimes you have a module where the front's here and then the board is this way, not this way. And when the boards are that way, that's where he was running into problems. Fitting him into that. But continue.
Oh, but that, and of course, Behringer is going to be putting out a bunch of Roland, Roland modules and Moog modules from their old format. So,
hello.
By the way,
I wanted to.
Pizza Hut.
Not turn that off.
We deliver.
I was going to ask you, Mr. CowFood, what are your thoughts on Behringer entering the modular market?
I'm all for it. I mean, if we can get good sounding analog modules that are sub $200, that can do some of the same things as some of the stuff that we're seeing out now can do, why not? But I mean, there's still going to be the boutique thing that I think the boutique companies are going to be hit too hard by it. I don't think it's going to make that big of a ripple in it. Because the modules that are going to be hitting at first are going to be the ones that Roland made way back when, and also moved remote. So,
yeah, I think of the System 100 type modules.
Right.
Or the Roland.
And the System 55.
700.
Moog.
Oh, okay.
So those are the ones I think they're going to be working on and trying to like recreate. So I doubt they're going to try to cut into people that
the little guys. That's the only thing that would bug me, is if Behringer came in and started ripping off these boutique companies that are the small guys. Like, don't beat up the small guys. I mean, you want to fight Roland, fine, but even Moog kind of pisses me off. It's only like 100 people working.
There's already clones too of like a company called Mutable Instruments. There's a bunch of clones you can, because it's open source for their code.
Right.
So like
modular seems to be a different world. There's a lot of cloning seems to occur in the modular world.
That's also true.
So
people
it's
are still
a different
going to hold
flavor.
true.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I shouldn't say nothing. I don't know anything about modular, really.
It's okay.
And that's
We'd
why
like to hear you talk.
need to get a Neutron.
I'm a dum-dum.
Get a Neutron. Marshall, get a Neutron. They're cheap. Just get one. Get your feet wet.
And then do what with it?
Learn
music.
to patch.
It has no.
Yeah, learn to patch.
It doesn't have presets. What am I gonna do?
You need presets.
I want to be able to save my patches. I get out my camera and take a picture, I guess.
It's got Polaroid patches.
There you go. Yeah, I'll just have them hung.
You put a little string with some clothespins, and you got your patches right there.
There you go, and I'll just hang them all around the room here. Stick them on the
magnifying
wall.
glass.
I'll put the date, and I'll name the patch. Yeah. That'd be all right. That'd be kind of fun.
You're gonna have Joe, Ned, Wilma, Betty.
Betty Nugs.
There you go.
That's
a base patch, by the way.
Yeah, of course. It has to be.
Just saying. Get a Neutron.
We'll see. We'll see. Well, I don't know what happened there. I hit the wrong button.
There's a Neutron in that picture right there.
There is. Yeah, because that's right here. There's a Neutron in there, and a Behringer D, and some other stuff I can't tell what it is.
Looks like two Behringer Ds side by side.
Oh, maybe you're right.
There's a Make Noise Maths in there. Some other stuff.
There was some. Yeah. I saw some debate on ethics. When this case came out, and the point was made that it's a freaking box. Like how can you really how many ways can you design that?
At some point, it's what is that, 5 sides?
Yeah, I mean,
you're bound to run into some overlap there.
Yeah. Like all synths are rectangles, right? So,
yeah.
Your rectangle looks like my rectangle. How dare you? Yeah.
But I wanted to comment on the Behringer entering modular. I think Mr. CowFood does have an interesting point that the field is a little different, and you know, if Behringer focuses on Roland and Moog clones, that's a very small portion of the modular world. And yeah, cloning's all over the place. I've got an EMW clone filter of the System 100M. Sounds fantastic. I'm pretty sure Doepfer makes a variety of Roland style filters, and you know, all the larger modular manufacturers have, you know, AJH, I think you mentioned, has a Roland filter, or you know, cloning's all over the place. So they'll be cheaper than everybody else, but yeah, it's gonna be a different ball game. So we'll see how it goes.
I just hope it doesn't kill off the
I don't think it will.
You know,
that's what I'm getting at. Is I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal just because there's so much more variety there.
Yeah.
Like Pittsburgh Modular, I don't know if they even make any clone filters. They've got their own filters and they sound fantastic, but I'm not, you know, and I think they do have a 24 dB and a 12 and a multi-mode and some of that stuff, but I could be wrong. I haven't looked at their filters lately.
They're not straight up clones.
It's their own twist either way.
Yeah.
And Dreadbox, you know, they've got their own filters.
But I don't think they're going to clone Dreadbox, for instance, or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's the other. Yeah.
There's no reason to.
Well, and how could they? Because it's not like those companies have designs that date back from 30 years ago that don't have any protection for design any longer. So it would make sense. You pick the low-hanging fruit. You do what you can get away with initially, and that's probably what they'll do.
Yeah, that questions the motivation for their clones, because in some cases the clones that Behringer has done were obvious, like, okay, everybody's been wanting so and so to re-release this for the last 30 years and they haven't. Please, somebody do it. Behringer says, okay, we're a company of the people, here you go, and everybody's happy. But they've cloned some other stuff that, you know, we've never even heard of. So that I don't know that I understand their cloning mentality entirely. What's driving it?
Some people have heard of them. We're just probably a little too young.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But that makes me wonder, you know, well, maybe they would branch out a little bit if with module cloning. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Time will tell, because we have a whole new decade of the 20s to find out and see what happens. So, yeah, anything else, guys? We'll probably wrap it up.
I'm good.
You good? Good in the hood?
Taking all the stuff off my chest.
Well, cool. So
done with the 2010s.
Done with the 2010s. We're actually in the actual 2020s. It sounds weird saying that. I always remember as a kid, like thinking. I remember even thinking like the year 2000 seemed like it was forever away. Now it's 2020, guys. Wow, that's crazy. We're in the future, and it looks a lot like the past, which is kind of weird. So I want to say thank you to you guys for joining me on the show here. Probably get together again after NAMM, so we'll see if... I know Jamie was from Geosynths was planned to be on, but unfortunately he's been under the weather, so hopefully he will be back to his good self soon, and I think we're going to be on his show tomorrow, actually, Aaron and I. And but yeah, I'd like to get together after NAMM, so I'll let you guys know. Maybe you guys can return for that, and we talk about all the news that comes out that we haven't heard about yet.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, party. High five.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, leave your questions, comments, concerns down below, and have a good one.